It's Friday, the 29th of May, the year of our Lord 2020, and a full-scale information war has broken out globally from Washington, D.C. to Minneapolis to Hong Kong to Beijing and to Silicon Valley. It's guns up and guns on today. President of the United States, Silicon Valley, New York, the mainstream media, Hong Kong, Beijing, Secretary of State, the Foreign Minister of China, Senator Ted Cruz, the mullahs in Iran. You're here ringside to have us disaggregate all this so you can make sense of it. War Room Pandemic, episode 201. I want to thank everybody. Over 8.5 million downloads, hundreds of millions of views. John Frederick's Radio Network, America's Voice, now on Dish Channel 219. Of course, Newsmax TV with Chris Ruddy and the team. And worldwide, we want to thank all of our worldwide audience, particularly those on G Media, G News, GTV, when it's subtitled in Mandarin. Tomorrow, Descent into Hell, Part 7, The Crisis in Hong Kong. And we've got people directly from Hong Kong. We've been producing the show all week, directly from Hong Kong. In fact, today, in the last segment, we're going to actually have one of the insurgents in Hong Kong that stood up the CCP. And his testimony, his witness, his voice is absolutely incredible, what these young kids are doing, standing up to the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, we want to get into it today. We've got Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz ratchets up everything. Ted Cruz wants to bring, criminal charges. He's just got a letter out from his staff. Ted Cruz. And whatever you think of Ted Cruz, one thing, he is an incredibly smart lawyer. This is one of the smartest legal brains in the country, and he also knows social media. So I'm going to turn over to Raheem. We've got, by the way, the Foreign Minister of China in the grill of the Secretary of State. We've got the President being banned on Twitter, I guess it is. We've got the President of the United States on both his personal account and the White House account. So this is the official White House account of the President of the United States being banned by Twitter. It's broken out all over, and it's getting more and more intense. Raheem, you broke so much news on this yesterday in the last couple of days in talking about this. You're really the first one to get the executive order. The executive, they have not scheduled. We had turned most of the show in today to work through to prep for this major press conference, a press briefing the president was going to have on China. We've got so many experts today on China. We've got Liz Ure. We've got Kevin Freeman, Economic Warfare. We've got Chris Fenton, the Hollywood producer. It's really you've probably seen him on Tucker. He's really at the cutting edge of knowing everything of how the CCP moves on business, talking about Hong Kong. We're just trying to get Christian Whitten, if we can track him down here, and we get a link. But we got experts on Hong Kong, and I think Larry Kudlow just reiterated on Squawk, although it's not on the schedule, that they're going to have it today, and the president's going to be throwing down. So this thing's totally in flux. But we're riding to the sound of the guns. Let's go to the information warfare piece of this Twitter. We've got Bobby Schilling. Bobby wrote that amazing piece in Daily Caller that we quoted from the other day. Bobby, who's running out in Iowa for Congress, is going to join us from Iowa. Guy's going to join us from Hong Kong. We've got it all happening today in War Room. Let's go back and do a reset on this whole Twitter. In the middle, you got this Minneapolis situation. You've got other things breaking out. I think Louisville, Kentucky broke out last night. You had some incidents in L.A. You're now literally got Czechoslovakia in 1938 in Hong Kong. Why is the president choosing this time to get into a major fight with social media?
Well, if there were ever 24 hours within which decades happen, it feels like the last 24 hours, Steve. The President of the United States, it was about 9 hours ago, sent a couple of tweets that reflected on what's going on in Minnesota. And he started off by saying, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city. Total lack of leadership. The very weak radical left mayor, Jacob Free, better get his act together and bring the city under control, or I will send in the National Guard and get the job done right." That was tweet 1. Tweet 2 from the president.
Isn't the governor the guy that got caught the National Guard? Didn't we devolve all these powers back for the pandemic? And isn't the National Guard or the 500 National Guards already in the street of Minneapolis?
That's right. As of about 8 hours ago. So within
after his tweet, or time, about the same time?
It would have been within the same time. It would have had to been organized before the tweet, I would imagine. But the second tweet from President Trump is unavailable, to say the least.
What do you mean unavailable? He's president of the United States. He's got 80 million people on Twitter.
Yeah, you can't see it.
How can you if you can see all the Kardashians, if you can see everything else, how
You can see the mullahs of Iran.
if you can see the mullahs of Iran, as Ted Cruz points out, if you can see the mullahs, and you see all the foreign ministers of China heckling our Secretary of State, you see all that. How can you not see the 45th president of the United States, even if you hate him?
Well, let's link these two things up then, because a lot of people over the last 24 hours have been ruminating as to why the president is taking time out of his schedule.
This was my question.
To worry about Twitter and Google and Instagram. Oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to say Google and Instagram and these guys. And we'll get into some of the changes that were made to the executive order that we released a draft of live yesterday morning on the show. But the president tweeted this. Quote, "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty, we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you." That tweet doesn't come with a...
When the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Correct.
Is that provocative?
Correct.
It's also correct, though. I mean, it's provocative.
What do you mean? What do you mean is correct?
Well, I mean, I think generally when we see cities burn and looting, the people do end up getting killed in the crossfire. It's a sad situation.
Is that what you think he implies there?
I think that you think he's threatening to be the shootist.
I'm asking you. I don't know. I just see that.
I think he's just making an observation, and unfortunately, he does have that sort of Muhammad Ali lyrical way of writing. Sometimes, you know.
He says he's the Hemingway of Twitter. This is
look,
okay. Let me step back. This is why it's important. Twitter. This is just not something.
I just want to describe real quick what they've done here,
Okay.
and then let's get into the analysis of it. So it's not a fact check that they put on him. It's a full veil. They've burqa'd his tweet, right? And you have to go to the tweet. You then have to read a notification from Twitter, which says this tweet violated the Twitter rules about glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. Learn more, and you can click on that to learn their rules. And then a little button next to it says view. And only once you click through on that, almost like a parental control filter, you can read the tweet.
Glorifying violence. So every Hollywood film does not have a Twitter account? Seriously, these Hollywood films that are R-rated for violence that glorify violence, which is 75% of Hollywood movies.
I'm sorry, but I could do one search right now and find you 50,000 beheading videos on Twitter
that don't have this. That don't
Correct.
have this thing. You're kidding me, right?
No.
They haven't taken all those down. The beheading videos, the ones that ISIS use as a marketing tool,
Right.
Those are still up there.
They claim,
and they do. You're saying that ISIS doesn't have that veil in front of it. No pun intended. With the glorifying violence, that you have to do 3 more clicks to get to it.
Well, ISIS doesn't have a Twitter account, but these videos that
That's
go
what
up
I mean.
on
Yes, but the guys around
the
there,
videos
right.
that go up online, they stay there. Pornography is freely available on Twitter. None of that gets veiled. They are applying this directly to the president of the United States. And see, here's the thing. It's not just Donald Trump's Twitter account. Because remember, this is Donald Trump's Twitter account. This isn't at POTUS on Twitter. This is at real Donald Trump. And so what the White House did this morning is replicated President Trump's tweet to see if Twitter would then censor the United States government. And surely enough, about 10, 15 minutes after the tweet went up, it was subjected to the same censorship.
Here's an. Sorry.
No, but jump in 1 second. I just want to make sure the news reports are saying that Dan Scavino, right, the great social media director of the White House, has been an extraordinary individual, and Pat Cipollone are the 2 guys that have been driving in back, have been driving to get more aggressive on this. So this is a Pat Cipollone, Dan Scavino saying, "Hey, they took down your personal account. Let's put it up on the White House. Let's raise the bid here and challenge them, dare them to take that down."
What's interesting in that same article where they're talking about Scavino being the driver here, they mention that other people in the White House are very upset, but you notice they never say who those people are, right? So this is, I think, we're going to watch this play out. As we're watching Donald Trump's Twitter feed be edited by Jack Dorsey, He did put a tweet out earlier today, which they didn't edit, which I think is kind of a tell. It says, Twitter is doing nothing about all the lies and propaganda being put out by China or the radical left Democrat Party. They have targeted Republicans, conservatives, and the President of the United States. Section 230 should be revoked by Congress. Until then, it will be regulated.
Look, in unrestricted warfare, what do they talk about? The primary way that they're going to come at us is information warfare, and that's propaganda, controlling platforms, and in cyber. And here we have, on this control of the Eurasian landmass, both the mullahs and Beijing. And Artie, you got Beijing heckling, using Twitter, heckling the Secretary of State on the day that we're going to come forward with a press briefing to lay down exactly what we're going to hold them accountable for. At the same time, Ted Cruz is, and I think it's along Raheem's lines, is, hey, you got all the beheading videos up. He's going after Twitter and saying, this is where we're taking this game to the next level. Thank you, Senator Ted Cruz. Criminal charges. Wants to bring criminal charges against the executives of Twitter. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's right. I've got the letter in front of me here from Senator Ted Cruz's office, which hit this morning. The letter to Attorney General Barr and Secretary Mnuchin urges an open investigation into Twitter for possible criminal violations of the International Emergency Powers Act and sanctionable activities prohibited by Executive Order 13876. That is specifically Iran sanctions. And the letter argues that American companies are not supposed to be providing goods and services to the sanctioned members of the Iranian regime, and yet those same sanctioned members are using the services of Twitter and other social media platforms.
For our audience, and some who may be not as up to speed on these social media platforms, and let's play Ari Velshi. Do we have MSNBC? This is why Trump is on Twitter. Can you play the MSNBC clip?
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that is.
So this is the MSNBC former business correspondent. Now's got his own show. He's in Minneapolis. There are raging fires in the background. I mean, this looks like Watts in 1964. I think they're burning a police precinct to the ground.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone. So they built, and I want to get into the training of the Minneapolis police, right? So, you never surrender Fort Apache. The thing's burning to the ground and looks like Watts in 1964, right? And he's sitting there going, it's basically a demonstration. I understand there's some people there that are demonstrating and doing their legitimate demonstration, but your lying eyes are telling you that looks like something's out of control. This is why Trump needs Trump is president of the United States because of his ability to use social media. He had no money, no organization. It was Corey Lewandowski and Hope Hicks and Trump on a plane. And it was social media that ran that early part of the campaign and united this populist nationalist movement together. That's why he used Twitter, and that's exactly what they're trying to gut and trying to take down. Am I not correct in that?
You're absolutely correct, and I want to make clear that nobody in this room, I don't think, believes that there is not a legitimate reason to protest at the killing of George Floyd.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we all understand that this
absolutely.
was an egregious thing that happened.
And it was social media that blew that up. Look, the lack. One of the questions here is the lack of training of the Minneapolis police is shocking. Okay, we'll be back with Bobby Schilling. Drill down on all this next. War Room Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a...
Okay, welcome back. Had a slight technical problem there at the beginning. We were trying to get Bobby Schilling. We've had kind of a drop of power somewhere. This is War Room Pandemic. Welcome back to the crew. Thank God we've got our ability here and to get up social media so we can get into everything. Bobby Schilling's going to join us in a second. He's running for Congress out in Iowa, but he wrote this amazing piece in the Daily Caller the other day, very prescient about this whole social media. I want to make a couple of things. Sure, we're not look the protest of what's going on in Minneapolis. Absolutely, you have every right to protest. I happen to think, and I would be a big supporter of the president having somebody like Bill Barr or senior Justice Department officials out there already looking into this thing. The local prosecutor said yesterday it's going to take time, and I'm sure that's true, and it's got a process. But to me, you've got to expedite and show that you're on this. Hashtag War Room Pandemic is the handle. We love your inputs. We love. In fact, we've had a great input from a listener already.
Yeah, one of our listeners, while we were talking about Donald Trump's tweet concerning when the rioting starts, the shooting starts, and this guy said, "Hey guys, no, technically he's correct. Early yesterday, when the looting started, a shop owner killed a man."
Okay, so I want to get up on our site. I want to put that up, and I want to link to it with the time, because the left and the mainstream media are not connecting those dots. The posse at War Room Pandemic are the people that have got to do it. So I want to make sure that we get this in there. I also want to go back. I want to reset just so that we can help the audience how to frame and to think about this and to come to your own conclusions. The Global Times, which is the propaganda. Remember, the CCP has a BBC propaganda channel, CCTV. They got the global one in London, CGTN or whatever it is. They've got the People's Daily, which prints here is the China Daily. That's the New York Times of their propaganda. And then they've got a tabloid. That tabloid is the Global Times, and that tabloid is really goes after people. We have the editor and publisher of the Global Times heckling the Secretary of State. You have that, Raheem?
Yes. So Hu Zhixin, who's a verified Twitter account, who is mostly known not for being an editor necessarily of the Global Times, but being a really combative tweeter, especially as Western interests and President Trump and his team are regarded. He's the editor-in-chief of the Chinese and English editions of the Global Times, and he tweeted early in the morning, 12:39 a.m. Eastern Time, "Secretary Pompeo, please stand with the angry people of Minneapolis, just like you did with the people of Hong Kong."
I think the Secretary of State does. It's a legitimate protest over an outrage like that. I think the Secretary of State does. I mean, this guy's trying to throw gasoline onto the fire, is he not?
Well, and I've got to tell you, as soon as I saw that, we started to research quite heavily and monitor if there has been an uptick in these Chinese bots, the Wu Mao accounts that we've discussed previously on this show regarding Minnesota and these protests around the country. And we'll be checking on that and keeping tabs on that all day today.
The Wu Mao 50-cent army is literally a digital army made up of bots controlled by the PLA and run and overseen by mainland Chinese civilians who are in the employ that oversee these bot accounts that try to drive narratives everywhere throughout Europe, Africa, the Middle East, everywhere, and they're aggressive. It's like having an army. Remember, this is information warfare, and trust me, they're trying to drive narratives all over the place. It's got to be watched. I want to go back to, before we get Bobby here one more time, I just want to, the EO. You had me all jacked up on this EO last night. Thing comes out, I don't have Google. I got an American company. This thing is this watered down from what we saw yesterday, or is it just as tough, just strong? And what does it really say? What's the heart of it?
All right, I don't mince my words on things like this, and I'm critical when I need to be, but this is still very substantive. What is clearly missing here from the original draft that we saw was reference to Google, and I'm reliably told that Google has some special place in some senior person's heart in the White House, and that while Kayleigh McEnany got up on stage yesterday during the press briefing and directly attacked Google, sometime between her press conference and the actual release of the executive order, Google itself was actually scrubbed from the EO, which is very strange because the line wasn't even particularly incendiary. What they had written was they had criticized Google for helping the Chinese Communist Party set up technology, including search engines, to assist the Chinese Communist Party, and they replaced it with an American company in the final version of the executive order.
But when you say that, they're part of the technology that's gone for the surveillance state and for the firewall.
And this brings us back.
Peter Thiel, who's the president's earliest supporter and his first high-tech supporter, was all over Google about a year ago, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, didn't he? I think he said that their contracts with the Defense Department should be cut. I believe the word treason came across his lips, was it not?
Yeah.
I mean, it was that tough.
Yeah.
So how did they not make the executive order when you're calling out Jack Dorsey and Twitter and talking about this? And he has a section in there about China. We're gonna have protests. We're gonna have insurgents from China on the show today that'll tell you, hey, they're gonna put me in prison for 20 years. So how do we justify when you're pivoting on the day you're going to have a press conference on China and Hong Kong or what you're going to do, and part of your social media thing is about this? How do you not have Google called out by name?
Well, when this happened last night, Steve, I spoke to you and I said, well, maybe they're saving something for the China conference today.
I mean, to drop that in real time.
It is a possibility, but at the same time, there's no reason Google's name can't be in both.
Well, in their EO, sir, why do they not have what Ted Cruz had? Ted Cruz has clearly been in communications with the White House. He's very highly regarded. He's clearly having talks. Ted Cruz throws he drops the hammer. Hey, how about this, Jack Dorsey? How about criminal charges?
Well, that's an easy one.
Suck on that.
That's understandable because you attack on different fronts, and that actually does make sense that you wouldn't necessarily include Ted Cruz's part in the EO. So you're attacking him on two different fronts with two different things, and that's fine. I understand that pincer movement way of doing things. What I don't understand is why, while you have the Section 230 stuff, the legal authority and the challenges to that in the executive order, what I don't understand is why they've chosen specifically to name Twitter's head of site integrity, Instagram, Adam Schiff, and all these other tech companies, Twitter, Facebook, but they leave out Google. And remember yesterday on the show, we talked about Dr. Fei Li, who was previously in charge of Google's China expansion and is now a new board member for Twitter. That would have been the perfect opportunity to highlight and showcase that link, this big Silicon Valley link, and it's just not in the EO.
Let's get Bobby Schilling on. Raheem, you're going to drive this. Let's get Bobby Schilling on from Iowa, running for Congress out there. Let's get Bobby Schilling on. You go through it, and I want Bobby to stay over the break. We got Kevin Freeman next, but we got so much to go through. Let's get Bobby on.
Congressman Bobby Schilling running again for Iowa too. Congressman, thank you for joining us today. You had this op-ed in the Daily Caller the day before the executive order came out, and we know the executive order was still being drafted at the time. In fact, we know it was still being drafted well into the press conference yesterday before it came out. And I wanted to ask you about two of the major things that came out in this op-ed of yours. And we mentioned one of these things on the show today. That's who watches The Watchmen. But first, I want to start off with the Big Tech Transparency Commission idea, right? This is the idea that anybody involved in the censorship, and we've seen more censorship of the president overnight, anybody involved in this should be beholden to some kind of public scrutiny, right, Congressman?
Yeah, that's exactly right. This should scare the heck out of, and I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, this should scare the heck out of every single American out there, because who's going to keep these guys in check? What are their political leanings? Who are they donating money to? They all come here with agendas. And, I just got to the point where, I thought, somebody's got to write something about this, get some ideas out there. And that's where, I came up with, who's watching The Watchmen, who's checking the fact check. I mean, that's what we need to know. We need to hold these people accountable so that they don't try to flip this election here in 2020.
Policy specifically, and it seemed like almost a response to you and other people saying the same thing, said, hey, leave my staff out of this. He tweeted that yesterday. We know the president has specifically mentioned the head of Twitter site integrity on Twitter and name-checked him as somebody who has historically attacked conservatives, attacked the president, actually said very nasty things even about transgendered people and things like that, but yet somehow managed to keep this, role as Twitter site integrity chief. Congressman, what do you say to Jack Dorsey, who says, actually, I'm responsible for all of this. You've got to leave my staff out of it?
I believe that's completely wrong. These people need to be held accountable. And look, if you don't have anything to hide or you're not trying to skip an election, we all have conservative friends that might, throw a political bomb out there on Twitter, Google, whatever, and they're, reprimanded or pulled off or blocked. Where you have the liberals out there that are talking crap on probably one of the, best presidents in the history of the United States of America that are out there, now they're wanting to censor him and block him. And I think Jack Dempsey needs to go look in the mirror. The American people aren't stupid, and they know exactly what these guys are doing. They admitted it, and we found information from the last election cycle, and they're trying to do the exact same thing. So we're gonna fight this tooth and nail, make sure whether it's a Democrat president or a Republican president that this is done in a fair way, and no big high-tech company out there is able to shift an election one way or the other.
Congressman, if you can just hang on, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'd love to if you can just hang a few more minutes. We got a couple minutes of commercials. We want to bring you back and finish up with this. Okay, War Room Pandemic. Go to hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want to hear your voice in this. Complicated topics today about information warfare, social media, criminal charges being brought. Ted Cruz wants criminal charges against the executives of certain social media platforms for working with the mullahs in Iran. All things China next on War and Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. This is starting to intensify. The President of the United States just had another tweet, another missive out there to the business community.
He quotes Janine Pereiro when he says, regulate Twitter if they're going to start regulating free speech. And then he adds, well, as they have just proven conclusively, that's what they are doing. Repeal Section 230. This guy's playing 3D chess.
Hey, I'm just saying, I have said now for 3 years, they got to be broken up, antitrust. It got to be like the RBOX, the Regional Bell Operating Companies back in the 80s. You got to break them up. And they have to be regulated. These are public utilities. They have to be regulated. And I know that our libertarians' heads are going to melt down right now, but you got to regulate these guys. And they've got to be broken up. They got way too much power. It's just incredible. You've had some retweets this morning, particularly on the Google thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I just as we looked at it again this morning and saw that the word Google had been removed from the executive order and replaced with an American company. I actually went into one of the president's tweets about it. And just,
is Google an American company?
A global company, I suppose, right? And I asked, I wrote a question to the president right under one of his tweets saying, hey, why was Google scrubbed from this? It's a good EO, but why would you scrub Google from this in the draft? And I'm grateful for other people chiming in on this. Dr. Sebastian Gorka retweeting us this morning on that point. I think people want an answer to that, and I hope we might get an answer to it in the China segment later today in the press conference.
Let's reset the congressman.
Yeah, I want to bring Congressman Bobby Schilling back in, running in Iowa too. In a primary, I think that's concluding next week. Congressman Senator Cruz has issued a letter this morning to the Attorney General. And he says that Twitter could face should face a criminal investigation over the fact that they're potentially violating U.S. sanctions against Iran by providing a service to sanctioned members of the Iranian regime. And that strikes me as a particularly right-headed and aggressive way to go about this.
I went through Ted Cruz's idea. I think it's a genius idea. I fully endorse it. We have to go after these people. The fabric of our nation is at risk here, and I think it's critical that people get behind what Cruz is actually recommending here, and full force of the American people behind it, just to show these folks that we're not messing around.
Steve, hang on. But Congressman, when you say the fabric of our nation is at risk here, tell people what you mean by that, because a lot of people in our audience, some are all over Twitter, some are not that social media savvy. When somebody like you, that's known as a social conservative and has been in this fight for many, many years, your son's one of the fire breathers out there. When a Schilling says this about this social media and all this cuts to the fabric of our country, what do you mean?
Well, what I mean is if these guys get their way, the America that we grew up with is going to basically be gone, because these guys are going to completely take over and control our elections, and they're going to dictate who's going to be the president. And the America that we knew growing up, I mean, we've already seen this change with Barack Obama at the helm for 8 years. That all of the problems that he created that we're dealing with now. But the America that we've dealt with in the past is going to be gone, because these people are going to continue to, as Obama would say, fundamentally transform this country even further than they already have. And it just scares the hell out of me to be right forward.
Why is it, Congressman, that when a CNN reporter is arrested in Minnesota, there's the right outcry from the progressive,
the appropriate outcry?
Yeah, it is a terrible thing that to happen, and we should all be angry about something like that. But when conservatives, the president of the United States, and hey, the U.S. government, all right, it's the White House Twitter account. It's not just Donald Trump's Twitter account that he's personally had. When that is censored, and Chinese, the Global Times guys, the CCP guys, the Iranian mullahs, all of this stuff, where is the disconnect right now, Congressman, between the left and the right on this? And can we actually bring some of those progressive left people onto our side of this debate? Shouldn't they be as concerned about their freedoms of speech?
You're exactly right, Raheem, because here's the thing. No matter what, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue. And like I said earlier, is that we as Americans take the D's and the R's out of this. We need to be concerned, because if the wrong person gets in charge of all of this stuff, the country that we know today is gone. So I think it's important that, if you're an American and you love this country, you should be standing up for what is right. And I think going after these guys, like what Cruz is doing, is the right thing to do, just to where we can keep our country as an American country, and keep these guys that are in check, that are actually out there, I believe, trying to destroy our nation.
Congressman, tell our audience where they can find out more about you and your campaign.
Sure. If anybody wants to read the article that I penned, it's on my website, which is bobbyforiowa.com. And I would ask everybody, hey, go and read this thing, because this is some serious stuff. And I want to thank you guys for your hard work and the fights that you're putting out there that are kind of keeping people informed, because it's so darn important, especially in today's world. So bobbyforiowa.com. Love to have you go and visit my issues pages, and then also read that article that we penned this past week.
We'll link it again today. We put the article up yesterday. Daily Caller did a great job. We linked to it and link to your site. So, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us, and keep fighting.
God bless you all. Thank you very much.
You know why I really like people like that is that the conservative Inc. crowd, you know what I mean by this? The old establishment guard are still making the case, oh, but Twitter's a private company, we should leave it to its own devices. And people like that, that's the kind of person I want.
Well, the thing is, Section 230 was negotiated. I mean, they wanted this thing to shield them from the liability. So if they're going to be editors, then they have to be liable for their content.
Look, if the phone, you pick up a phone and use the phone, they don't have ability to, at least to now, to edit you. When they get the ability to edit the President of the United States, I think Pat Cipollone has done a very smart bracketing this thing up, the graduated approach. I think we're seeing some of this China. Look, obviously what we're talking about, this means it's uncertain times, right? And this is, I think, why NetSuite by Oracle, we're so proud to have them as our sponsor. It's the world's #1 cloud platform system. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got to use NetSuite by Oracle. Just go to our site. The 7 action steps you can take today. If you just go to the site, you can see Congressman Schilling's article and many more things, and you get to see in these uncertain times. Give yourself some stability. What you need is a software package that does all of that. We're going to let's get Kevin Freeman in here. Talk about software packages. This guy's got a battle plan. He's going to walk you through about how you can help you think about everything. Jack, you had something?
No, I was just saying the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Fry, responded to Donald Trump today in a press conference about an hour ago, and I think we'll see some common projection in his comments. Weakness is refusing to take responsibility for your own actions. Weakness is pointing your finger at somebody else during a time of crisis, Fry said before pounding the lectern. Donald Trump knows nothing about the strength of Minneapolis. We are strong as HE double hockey sticks. Is this a difficult time period? Yes, but you better be darn sure that we're going to get through this.
I just think the mayor, they ought to look a little inward. He's got to take more action. Somehow, the training of the police department, look, we're very pro law and order here. And I know the law and order guys train, just like in the military. It's exercise, so it becomes second nature, right? And that's one of the things you've seen here is that is the police department out there, are they as well trained as they need to be, right? You've seen some of these issues with the CNN reporter yesterday. I realized maybe he didn't have all the markings on that he needed to have on, but also I still don't understand about backing off of the police precinct. Right, I think if you do that, you're just inviting anarchy. Right, you've got to take a stand somewhere.
And what was kind of frightening about the way they retreated from that police station was they didn't come out the back door. They literally fled out the back to their parking lot, and then they used SUVs to drive over the fence and escape out the back.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. The other thing is I don't think it's time now, particularly in the middle of this pandemic and opening up America, to be on this back and forth, right? People ought to get a plan. I think senior people in the Justice Department ought to get out there, start laying hands on the U.S. attorney and the local prosecutor and get this thing sorted and expedite it. You know, this thing ought to be. You just can't sit there and just do. This is not normal course of business. You can't do normal course of business. No rush to judgment, and but. You got to show. I think engagement is, and the president. I don't believe the president needs to go. I think I saw on social media today people were talking about that, but I think you need to get people out there. Okay, obviously, as we always are on the show, we're running late with guests. I want to bring in Kevin Freeman now, Economic War Room, and has been at the leading edge of this situation with China for many years. Kevin, first off, I want your response. Kudlow, and we'll play the clip next segment, Greg, but Kudlow talked today because there's some confusion. There's confusion overnight about this EO. It's a little different than it was last night. There's confusion about China. There's supposed to be a press briefing, but it was not on the official schedule. I don't know if it's on the official schedule yet. There's some debate about Kudlow reinforced on Squawk that something's going to happen, and it's going to either be sanctions or, he said the president's very angry. He's going to hold guys to account. Give us your assessment of Hong Kong and what you would recommend that the President of the United States do in the reaction to the Chinese Communist Party.
Sure, Steve, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this. Hong Kong, what's happened is something that's significant, going to impact every American. We just don't know it yet. You mentioned we've talked about this for 10 years on my show, Economic War Room, as long as it's been on broadcast, in my blogs and everything else. The reality of it is the Chinese Communist Party is an evil empire. It's the new evil empire. And what they're doing to their own people, how they're repressing the people, organ harvesting, stealing intellectual property, all of that comes to the fore when they say we now are going to take authority over Hong Kong. They're pushing through this security measure against the wishes of the people, as you can see by the people reaction in the street. And it proves that Hong Kong is no longer autonomous. So Secretary Pompeo came out and said this. It's an acknowledgement of fact. It's been a fact for a little bit, but now the president has the opportunity to really step in. And one of the measures that we've talked about at the Committee on the Present Danger of China, which is so significant, is we've been funding China to the tune of $3 trillion of our capital going into their stocks, companies, and so forth, many of which are outright frauds. We've funded them to $3 trillion debt and equity. And we have a measure, the Senate voted 100-0 to deregister and delist any Chinese shares in our market that don't conform to our accounting standards. We need to push that now. It can't be 3 years like the Senate said. They put a 3-year time period. It needs to be immediately deregistered, immediately delisted, and until they can prove that they will meet our accounting standards, they can't come back. And when they do prove it, maybe they do come back. But we need to hit an economic punch right now over Hong Kong.
Kevin, we're gonna, if you can hold, and we want you over for the next session. So Kevin Freeman is going to hold. He's going to join us for the next one. He's going to talk about. He's actually got a very detailed battle plan, and that battle plan is going to be yours. Be able to pick up. Kevin Freeman, Economic War Room. Okay, hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want you jumping in here. We want your point of view about what the president should do on social media. Want to know if you support Ted Cruz's bringing criminal charges. One of the subtexts here to remember, sanctions, primary and secondary sanctions. These sanctions have some teeth in it, and they allow you to do a lot of things to hold the bad guys accountable. And so to make sure they can't use American technology, access to American markets, access to American capital. That's what this information and economic war is about. Ted Cruz gets it. Okay, short commercial break. We're going to return with the entire posse and Kevin Freeman. War Room Pandemic returns in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Look, these are uncertain times. You don't have to look at what's happening throughout the country right now or what's in Hong Kong or in Iran. You know that we're going into very, very uncertain and troubled times with this pandemic, the economic crisis, the financial crisis on top of that. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, and many of you are going to be entrepreneurs in the future, what you need is tools. And the best tool that you can have is NetSuite by Oracle. It's the #1 cloud business system from one of the best companies in the world, and that would be Oracle. So you've got a big company backing with entrepreneurial software. Now, NetSuite, we got the 7 actions every entrepreneur should take. Go to it. It's netsuite.com/Bannon. I want you to go there, and it talks about the tools you can use the NetSuite for. Everything from forecasting, economic planning, your modeling, what we talk about here all the time on the show. Also, inventory, HR, capital asset management, all of it. And this is what an entrepreneur needs. Remember, successful entrepreneurs are not just know how to be bold and take gambles. You know how to mitigate risk. The key to be a successful entrepreneur is know what your risks are, how to mitigate it. And that's what happens when you get NetSuite by Oracle. So I want everybody to go and check it out. And just go to the site because I actually show you how you have to think about building a business. NetSuite by Oracle.com/Bannon. Once you go there today, very honored to have the guys at Oracle as a sponsor. I want to turn back to Kevin Freeman. Kevin, I want to talk about your battle plan. You've been doing this for a decade. And sometimes I know it felt like you were, John the Baptist in the wilderness. But the moment is now. The President of the United States is going to address this. Do we have the clip? Greg Manns from the War Room. Let's play the clip before we get Kevin back on here. Okay, so we don't have the clip. We got the clip? Okay, let's just go back to Kevin. Kevin, talk to us about the battle plan. Talk to us about what you've got.
Yes, Steve. Every show we produce at Economic War Room, we produce a battle plan that accompanies it. And the battle plan, here's a copy of it. This particular one is you break it, you pay for it. And the thesis of it is that China has broken the world's economy. I mean, they've broken it in many ways, but recently with the pandemic, I mean, we've never seen anything like this before, that something they unleashed on the world. And so here are action steps, practical steps that a consumer and investor can do to make a difference. For example, most people don't realize how much money they have invested in Chinese stocks right now. If you own an index fund that's a global index fund, you probably have Chinese stocks. If you've got money with a money manager, you probably have Chinese stocks. This battle plan tells you how you can walk through. Number one, it explains what the issue is. Then it tells you how to walk through with your advisor and find out, do you own Chinese stocks, and then what you should do about it. It gives it's all the background, recap of our show, and then the steps are specific action steps of things that you ought to be doing in your portfolio. And then it's got links at the back, hundreds of links that you can look at to see, is this real? Is this just Kevin Freeman talking about this? No, it's documented and backed up from all sources, CNBC, New York Times, Reuters, Epoch Times, Politico, all explaining everything that we're telling people. So it's a battle plan for how you can divest from China and start investing patriotically to help America. And we do that every single show, every topic. And we've done this, we've probably done 12 battle plans on China and divesting from China because unfortunately, most Americans are ignorant and they just say, well, I don't know if I have Chinese stocks in my portfolio or not. But the reality of it is you probably do. And if you do, what can you do about that? How can you make a difference? Because if we lose, Steve, you said this on my show a couple of days ago, if we lose Hong Kong here, if this great democracy of Hong Kong, this free enterprise bastion of Hong Kong falls under the Chinese Communist Party full control as we're watching happen before our eyes, that's 1938, that's Hitler rolling into Austria, that is the beginning of another world war. We've got to stop it here, and the president needs to put the sanctions on, divest from China. We need to do everything possible to stop China here now.
Kevin, how do people get? How do they get to the Economic War Room? What's your Twitter handle? How do they get access to it?
economicwarroom.com. That's the beginning point. From there, you can click a link and see our past shows, clips from them. From there, you can click a link, go to our YouTube page, or you can go to our Twitter handle, and you can also click the link, get your free battle plan. These battle plans are free. They're no charge. You can go back and see all 90 of them that we produced so far, and you can download any of them now and see what we said when. economicwarroom.com.
Okay, Kevin, thank you very much. You're a great warrior. Kevin Freeman, got to go to Economic War Room, get all the information. Here's what blows my mind. Thanks, Kevin. Boy, I tell you, he looks cool, calm, and collected with that air conditioner on. We ought to try that. This is why we don't have air conditioning in the war room. I know you guys sweat, and everybody's moaning, right, and groaning. Oh, you got to cut the AC on so people get a clear view. Do we have Larry Kudlow?
Ice pack.
Do we have Larry Kudlow at the first time I missed Jason Miller, Greg? Do we have Kudlow?
In a democratic system, China is now violating that by taking over national security. People of Hong Kong are furious. And we will not, Secretary of State Pompeo, no autonomy anymore for Hong Kong. I'm not going to front run the president. President will be out with some ideas to hold China accountable. Frankly, the U.S. government is, I'll use the word furious at what China has done in recent days, weeks, and months. They have not behaved well, and they have lost the trust, I think, of the whole Western world.
President Trump went out of his way to try to work with the Chinese. He had the Lighthizer-Trump deal that they walked away from in May of 2019. This would have fully integrated the Chinese Communist Party into the world's economy. It would have given the Chinese workers kind of a way to kind of dig themselves out of the slave labor system that the Chinese Communist Party has them under. Remember, there's only 90 million communist members of the Chinese Communist Party in a nation of 1.4 billion people. Okay, and of those 90 million, only a couple thousand matter, and there's really run by 8 families. The same families on the Long March, when they ended the Long March, basically those same families kind of run it in almost like clans, right? And they're wealthier. They're wealthier than the royal families in the Gulf. They're wealthier than the Gulf Emirate royal families. These are the richest folks in the world. And have they done that? Because you, the American people, the hardworking folks out there in America, it's your pension money, your insurance company money, your savings account have been taken by Wall Street to finance taking out all the factories, as Dan D'Amico told us yesterday, and Peter Navarro preaches every time he's on TV, taking all the factories, shipped all those high value-added jobs to China where they pay people like slaves, and they sent the opioids, fentanyl, back into the country, the second opium war. Okay, we're going to get all into this and more from Minneapolis and social media, the war and social media, all next. War and Pandemic.